we're live again. Hello, all out there, all you WiseUP listeners. This is Anthony Romeo coming to you again, yet again, another WiseUP episode. So, what have we been doing on WiseUP for the last 3 seasons? Well, we've been telling people out there that layer 1 infrastructure matters. Most people say, what the hell is layer 1 infrastructure, right? So, and why do I care to know what layer 1 infrastructure is? So what we've been doing on WiseUP is we've been bringing attention to, do you like utilizing your cell phone, your laptop, and your other devices? How about streaming service or banking, e-commerce, things like that? Your everyday life is so dependent upon layer 1 infrastructure. So here at WiseUP, we are bringing attention to valuable manufacturers, service providers, people out there that are making it happen, from the design engineer aspects to implementing and turning the screws and lighting up these systems to ensure that the network that you're on and you take for granted from the moment you wake up in the morning, because I know you're checking your phone or checking your emails, and especially now in the world we're living where everybody's working remote to some degree, you're on the go constantly and the network matters. So with that said, today we have 2 special guests. Instead of usually we have only 1 special guest, but from the Senko Advanced Components, we have Chris Tutt and Ron. And Ron, I know Ron now probably several years, so glad to have both of you on. Ron is a senior business development specialist at Senko, and Chris Tutt is a product line manager from the Senko company. Now, you might ask, who's the Senko company? Well, if you're saying that, you're probably not in the ICT community, right? But what we're going to do in the next few minutes is tell you who they are and why they matter, because they're putting their customers first, and they want to understand the needs and how they can collaboratively work together to solve existing problems that you see, from the design to engineering. I mean, they're constantly developing new products to address diverse markets and applications in various segments, I should say. Whether it be global or locally, this massive billion-dollar company is able to work with you. And I'm sure if you're, again, in the ICT community, IBEW, CWA, you have dealt with the Senko connector. So, gentlemen, welcome to WiseUP. Thanks for stopping by.
Hey, thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Anthony. And I want to say appreciate for having us, myself and Chris, with WiseUP. Been listening to a couple of the WiseUP, and actually been great. And I want to say thank you again for inviting us to participate here and share what we're going to have to offer here at Senko, and then what we can help in the telecommunication industry.
All right, let me ask you guys this. So you wake up in the morning, you punch in your clock, and 2 weeks later, the check arrives from the Senko Advanced Components company, right? Happy days. What gets you out of bed? What's making it exciting to go to work for your company that we're about to embark on this journey together? What is it, the importance that this manufacturer is doing? What are they bringing to the table?
Well, Anthony, for me, Senko, I just started with Senko, but my previous role in a different role from sales, product manager, engineering. With Senko, they're developing a lot of new great products. They're bringing 2 new products to the industry for small form factor connector that's going to change the way high density and connectivity is. And that's exciting, right? Now you get to talk about it and get to, make a difference in the telecommunication industry itself. Everybody's using more data, more streaming services. And now it's actually, right now, just talking to you, our streaming services, they need to be quicker, faster, smoother. So this is exciting. And as you keep hearing more and more high densities needed for all various markets. So that's what made me excited, because now I'm actually bringing new technology, help them improve our customers' our users and and beyond. So that's got me excited.
Follow on to that, especially in the land of COVID, right? So much more bandwidth is needed. The space is required. So that's why the latent breaking technologies that we're developing is helping to foster that, right? Get our connectors in there because it can fit a lot more connectors into the same size space.
Right. So, I mean, you kind of end the show, right? You say density, mic drop, it's over. But what you're designing, it's not only for the Senko. If I'm not mistaken, other companies are working with you or rely on your quality service, because it's it's not only the SN and the CS, but the LC and many other connectors. You guys, your company, organization's been around since the 1940s. So there's specialty products and other products that you've been manufacturing. Today on this show, we're going to be talking specifically about the benefits of the CS and the SN connector, but just from the wide range of different types of connectors that your company's bringing to the table. For instance, on the LC, let's dumb it down for some of our listeners out there. What is the fiber optic connector 101? LC, SC, what's the difference?
So, Anthony, so if you talk about fiber 101, right? So you're talking about, you got the connector back in the 80s, 70s, you got the bayonet ST style connector, you got the SC connectors, then after that you got the LC connectors, and then after that you got the MPO, where the SC, ST connectors and FC connectors also, which is a 2.5 Faro. And then, as density grow, bandwidth grow, the network start more demand, that's where you get the 1.25 Faro, which is the LC. A lot of people know about LC. Then there's an MU connector, which is used another 1.25 Faro, using in different internationally. But LC is more predominant for the small form factor. Then after that, you get the multi-fiber connector MPO, which is more fiber in a smaller form, but it's still a 12 fiber MPO Faro, or it could be a 24 or a 16 fiber Faro. So as we want to see what Optic can do to even reduce the size footprint, that's where we kind of the evolution of is needed per various manufacturers, switch manufacturing, transceiver manufacturer reaching out to us, because we sit in the TIA standard committee, the IEC standard, the consortium of co-optics, and also the MSA. And that's where we see these requests, because we sit in the standard committee, need another small form factor connector, but utilizing an existing technology of the 1.25 Faro. That's where the CS and the SN developed. And that's what's great about Senko. Our engineering team had developed this per the request of other manufacturers, and we design it per their request. So we listen to our the industry leaders of the switch transceivers and other manufacturing, and then also we developed this connector to meet the field users, the industry standard.
So
so that's kind of the evolution from, as you see more and more now, it's going to be the, higher density, you need the small form factor.
Right. Yeah. So you hit it right on the head, and that's where I was going with it. So you mentioned a lot of different things. One of them is streaming service, remote working, hosting calls, and other things. The web traffic is the bandwidth is screaming, right? And then where is all this? Where is all these connectors, all these connection points going to go into that closet and onto that switch or into that panel rather? How is it all going to be mapped out and laid out? Do you need additional racks? And then now we're talking about real estate. Well, everybody, Division 27 is very important. For those who don't know, Division 27 is for telecommunications standards. And with that being said, a lot of times, and the three of us, we've experienced in various roles that kind of is the afterthought in a lot of times, the IT, process. But now with a lot of driving factors that we've been discussing, like streaming, like virtual employees, the data centers are screaming for bandwidth, right? This is great. So talk to us a little bit about the SN and the CS connector and what went into the development of that from your company.
Yeah, so the two different connectors. The CS started first, and it started from the MSA, looking at the current LC transceivers and really looking to be able to expand the bandwidth or the density of those transceivers. And so CS evolved from an MSA, looking to double the density. So we're basically able to put 4 fibers into a standard transceiver that normally would have 2 if it was an LC based transceiver. So you're doubling the density, and that started to the CS. And then the SN was the same thing, was more of a MPO based transceivers, looking at ways to streamline the way that they connected, and the leaf spine architecture. Really, with the MPO, you'd have an MPO, you'd have a cassette, you'd have a breakout cable, that type of thing. So there's a lot of different interconnect breaks in the whole path, where by going to the SN, we were able to fit 8 fibers or 4 connectors, 4 channels into the same footprint as an MPO transceiver. And it allowed us to have 4 separate channels instead of 1 channel, or excuse me, 1 connector that would have the 8 fibers in it. So if one broke, you basically lost all 8 fibers. Correct. Now with SN, you have 4 separate channels to replace it, and a lot less interconnects. And then the performance, an MPO performance, you have certain losses, but an LC based ferrule is a much better performing ferrule, and that's what we were able to use in both CS and SN.
So to Chris' point on the CS and SN, it's almost reduced a footprint of about 40% of a standard traditional LC.
Wow.
When you say space is a premium in any data center, carrier network, or wireless network, you think about it, space is premium, right? You want to use
Absolutely.
the same panel. So this is where it comes in. So now you're almost increasing an additional 40% of connectivity inside the same panel. So that's where you see a lot of manufacturers is driving to that, and the end user itself now they could add more connection without adding more space or getting more space.
Well, that is sort of reducing the amount of panels, reduces cost, right? So, and that was going to be a question so that was going to be a question I had. So, with the 40% reduction due to the density of your connector here, and eliminating an additional panel possibly needed, so now you're saving on the panel. What's the average delta on the SN connector versus other that you're seeing? It'll all depend. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but roughly.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of factors in it. But if you look at the total number of connectors, or patches in between, you'd have a MPO to a shuffle to breakout cables. Now it's connector to connector on both ends, to the transceiver to transceiver.
Right.
But another big point is just the density savings. It's so somebody doesn't want to fully use the space savings to add more fibers. What if they need better cable management? Now you've got a ton more room for cable management, or you have a lot more space for airflow.
I was just going to say,
if you can have half the number of connectors, twice or the same amount of fibers.
It's a chain reaction of things. Yeah. Exactly. It's a chain.
So it's not always, everybody's not always looking for the extra fibers. They might just be looking for better ways to improve what they have. So now they have more space for airflow, more space for cable management. And
us at Wise Components as a stocking distributor of many different lines and brands, we work with connectors, we work with cable management, we work with the rack itself, the metals, and you take that 30,000 foot view to the customer, and you give the whole solution to them, and you tell them, as you have clearly pointed out, that the savings is the 40% of reduction of space. And now it's the domino effect. Well, it's not only, as you point out, Chris, about the the saving of density, but also now you're talking about cable management, you're talking about airflow, Run, you was saying about the less panel, so there's another additional cost that you're tallying in your head. And if getting to the right person, it matters to educate them in a way where it's not about just the price of that commodity. It's the overall end result. What are you trying to achieve? And again, in WiseUP, you're listening to WiseUP. We're talking with Chris Tutt and Run at Senko Advanced Components, talking about optical fiber solution connectors out there. And specifically, we were going into the SN, CS connectors with their manufacturing. A terrific company, been around since the 1940s, folks. If you don't know about Senko, we hope to achieve that today on our podcast, as you should know about it. They work with many manufacturers out there providing a substantial product. That being said, Chris and Run, the connector and the reason for the density, as we were alluding to, it's not just the cost savings on the density, but there's a multitude of things, as you were saying. So with that said, where do you see the thorn in the side of what's going on in the industry? What's preventing people to have that aha moment? Is it just getting to the right person, or is it, if you're able to highlight or magnify the problem and here's the solution, what is it?
So I think for me, what I kind of, it's just the market awareness, right? So just like you inviting us for doing the WiseUP, we're trying to get the market aware of this new technology. It's just been around the last couple of years. And that's where we're trying to get adoption from our switch partners, transceivers partners, and also manufacturing partners. And now we want to get aware of it to the end user, our consultant community, data center operators, about this new technology. And as you know, everybody's trying to save space. Everybody's trying to go green, as saving efficiency as much as possible. So that's where, that's why we want to get this CS and SN out there, make sure everybody's aware of this technology. That's actually is a smaller footprint using the same LC, optical loss with the 1.25 Faro. And that's where we see it's like not that many people are aware of the connector technology.
Yeah.
And I think another thing is just people don't know if the ecosystem, is it ready? Is it ready to support the connector, right?
Right.
Where LC or SCs and MPOs, there's plenty of ecosystem. There's polishing. There's transceiver manufacturers that are doing it. But Senko now, Senko for the SN is over 18 licensees for the transceivers.
Wow.
And big names, eOptilink, AOI, Molex, Sequoia, Cisco, Innolight. Those are all
small
companies
little companies. Yeah,
to make transceivers. And then on the connector and adapter side for SN, so AFL and CommScope are both licensed to be able to make, so you don't have a single source opportunity, you have multiple sources available. And then other ecosystems, so polishing plates, Seiko Geiken and Dumel, and have made polishing plates, Datapixel, Sumex, Expo, Viavi, Lightel, Optotest, JGR. They're all making equipment to either test or to help build fiber optics assemblies using these connectors, both CS and SN.
So let me ask you this, and you might not have the answer for me, but I try to not stump anybody, but it's an opinion question, so there is no wrong answer. We've been talking about the data center, the density within the data center. Everybody that I've had on the show is at one time or another said data center and density within the data center. Intelligent IoT is another thing that comes up nonstop in conversations with everybody. It's front of mind. All the integration of the universal connectivity grid, everything on device, from your washing machine to your television to your laptop, your phone, etc. Where do you see where do you see it going? I mean, is it 400 gig, 800 gig? What's on the horizon? What's on the near horizon, and then what's out there? What are you seeing? Because like I think I was telling a story to Run a couple weeks ago when I was a copper guy and manufacturer. I remember talking to a financial institution about Category 6A when it was brand new. It wasn't even a standard yet, and they were like, we're on 5E, shoestring and 2 coffee cans will serve us good, and they weren't looking at the future. And then shortly after that, the TIA, IEEE, they made standards in the body for copper 6A, at least supporting APs, and then other things followed after that. But where do you see, like we're talking about today with data center density, what we're pushing, what customers are needing today, but what do you see on the horizon? And again, there's no wrong answer, so I'm not trying to trip anybody up.
I'll go first, and I'll let Chris handle the other half portion. But as I see more and more, like everybody's hearing now 5G, right? 5G. So the next is 6th generation. So as 6th generation come up, on the wireless side of it, and then more increase of demand, streaming, and Internet things. And then now you're going to hear a lot of autonomous vehicles, and then edge computing. So you're going to hear a lot of all these terminology, and that's where you need connection. And space is a premium. No matter where you put all these edge computing, you got to put it somewhere to support a 5G, to support a 6G. So they need a small footprint of connection. So that's where we kind of see where we have this new smaller form factor connector, which almost save 40%, but also saving the design of where you're gonna put it, and is ready to support a current 400G and next 800G. And we're working, just like Chris mentioned, with all these other transceiver switch manufacturers, the electronic to support this new bandwidth, right? And we are looking, supporting more autonomous. You probably the buzzword for the last year and a half now, electrical vehicle, right? EV, greenfield, right. And you see it, all these other players, not just Tesla, coming into play, making their own electronic, electric vehicles. And then you got fuel cell vehicles. So all these vehicles must have working with some kind of connectivity, need that instant feedback for autonomous driving. So that's where we can kind of see where this kind of trend keep going to. And then data center, the data center could be physical footprint and edge computing data center to support all these data instantly and getting feedback.
No, I wasn't taken back by 800 gig, but especially the AI conversation that has come up, or EV, the autonomous features in vehicles today. Even like a car that I drive is able to determine lane departure, distance of cars in front of me or behind me, and all these things coincide, whether it be a Tesla, Lucid, or another car manufacturer out there. But there can't be any latency, right? None whatsoever. Yeah. So what the modern data center looks like today is already evolving. We've spoken to several manufacturers already about the edge and what, in their mind, what the edge looks like, and how they are working on a data center in a box, and then all the components in it. So your company fits right into the mix. So it's definitely a piece of that puzzle that people have to understand the necessity, because that's what it becomes. The IT community for so long was a want, but the stuff behind the walls matters so much more now. As we've spoken about the data center and we went over the intelligent building space, now we're talking about the future of AI and where that's going with autonomous vehicles, whether it be density on and the right type connector, the optical fiber chain, the cable management, the airflow. All these things are critical. They become a utility, not just a want, right? So I applaud what your company at Senko Advanced Components is doing.
Yes. So just for another nugget of the future, right? What I could see. So as autonomous vehicle keep, get improvement in the future here, and then as we are with COVID effect, everybody's a lot more people going to be working from home now. Thinking about all the streaming, all the services, I could see in the future people's actually going to have a conference call in the car while the car doing all the autonomous drive. So you're going to have more bandwidth needed in the vehicle itself, more connectivity, more streaming, more data. You're actually getting the car itself is going to drive in while you're having a conference call or meeting. So you're not just going to pick up a phone and actually.
So 800 gigs, 800 gigs is not that far away. It's in the line of sight. We could see it. It's just in the clearing, so yeah. It's there. Well, it's just crazy to me, because just less than 20 years ago, it was like we might get to a gig.
Yeah. And then lastly, think about just autonomous, but network itself. You're going to have all these VOTLE, these electric helicopter planes and stuff taking you quick distance ride. And then, while there, you're going to have connectivity that you require for connection, doing calls and stuff while you're on this electric, flight transportation, right? So those kind of things that there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of growth we're going to see and more demand from other spots. That's never thought that we were required.
Yeah, and again, it touches as you're both describing the products that your company Senko is manufacturing on the CS and now the SN connector. You touch every vertical: finance, higher ed, K through 12 and higher ed, the utilities companies, the data center, specifically that market, the co-locations, the micro edge data center to come. A lot of manufacturers, come out with the data center in the box. But what it's going to look like in the next 3 to 5 years, it's, magic 8 ball. What does it say? But again, you guys, your company, your organization has been evolving for decades now, and you've been taking people along for the ride, manufacturing these connectors and these solutions, and people are saying, we want to work with that company. We want to put our name attached to that product. So that, that's an applaud, and I don't say that too often. It's something when I'm in a meeting with customers, we deal with a wide range of customers. Now I'm in a meeting, I'm sitting here in the same room instead of being in their face. But when we're in a meeting with a customer and they say, oh, is it a Senko connector? They're not saying, oh, is it Corning fiber? Is it whatever else? They say, is it a Senko connector? Now, I can honestly say that I've been in several meetings where your company has specifically been called out in various verticals. So it's commendable. I mean, I'm a small, business owner in comparison to the big scheme of things. So, for my clientele to say that to me, it's amazing. So you guys are doing something, your organization is doing something right. So again, Chris Tutt and Ron, we are not worthy for the amount of level of knowledge that you have all brought to us today on WiseUP. WiseUp can be streamed on iTunes, Anchor, Spotify, or however you stream your services. We also have our Wise Components, as WiseUp is sponsored by Wise Components. Wise Components is a stocking distributor of quality IT layer 1 infrastructure and OEM products since 1975. Folks, I can't thank you enough today for what you bring to the table. For everybody listening out there, we're going to put a ton of show notes in for this one, because as I was sharing with Ron earlier in the week, I don't want to get any, this will be a 5-hour podcast, because the amount of stuff, again, we're talking about 800 gigs, but and we could clearly see the path to that road ahead. It's not like, oh, in the future, flying cars and automation, and folks, it's here. Their stuff is happening today. You know, what Ron was just talking about is going on in Dubai right now. You could get into a autonomous helo and just pop you from one building to another. How does that work? There's the combustion engine, the turbine engine. Yeah, there's the mechanical hardware, but there is a network supporting that. And you getting in something that's flying by itself, you might want to ensure there's no latency. If you're in a vehicle that's traveling at the speed of 75 miles an hour, you might want to be certain that the connection is not going to be interrupted. Maybe on a Zoom call, when you're talking to your boss, a little latency and a glitch, and then you can go get another cup of coffee or use the bathroom and come back to the meeting, and he won't even know, or she won't even know, whoever. But if you're driving a vehicle or sitting in a vehicle that's driving you around, latency is kind of a big deal. Then we're in a data center where data center is basically the main artery of the network these days, right? So as both Chris and Ron had talked about, 40% reduction on the density of existing versus, traditional versus what the SN is bringing to the table. It's not just the density, as Chris pointed out, that you're saving on the panel, as Ron pointed out as well. The airflow, cable management, all these other things come into play. The real estate itself, if you're just somebody in facilities that really doesn't care about the connection, and you just know that you have X amount of square footage to provide for that IDF or MDF, how many racks could you afford to have in that space? Right? That's the question. So again, guys, I truly thank you for taking this opportunity to speak with me today, and the folks that are listening to WiseUP. Thank you so much. Keep listening. We appreciate the comments. Apple iTunes has us at 5 stars. We greatly appreciate that support. Again, we're streaming on every platform out there. Wise Components has these quality solutions, so don't forget to check us out at www.wisecomponents.com. And Chris and Ron, if I just on the URL for Senko is www.senko.com. Is that correct? And that's SENKO.com.
Correct.
That is correct.
Now, for technical resources, product brochures, videos, white papers, their tech digest, that could all be found on that website. But I encourage you folks to check out the show notes, because we'll have it jam-packed with a lot of information specific on the small form factor connectors, specifically CS and SN, and what Senko Advanced Components is bringing to the table. Well, gentlemen, that's the show, folks. Again, thank you for listening, and guys, thanks for joining us today. We greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. It's been a blast.
Well,
Thank you, Anthony.
Anthony, thank you again. Appreciate having myself and Chris on WiseUp, and it's always a pleasure talking to you again, Anthony. And thank you. It's really helpful, and thank you for all the audience that's listening to us today. And put a like on WiseUp.